Hi everyone, I'm Joe. Today it's time for me to do a book review of Lords and Ladies written by Terry Pratchett. This was first published in 1992. It is the 14th Discworld novel and the 4th novel set within the Witches character sub-series. So first of all, what is the Discworld? It is a flat disc-shaped world, unsurprisingly, but it is resting on the backs of 4 very large elephants, which logically stand on the back of an even larger world turtle, which swims through space as though it was water. Now this may sound strange, but it actually makes certain sense within the Discworld and can indeed explain certain things about the Discworld, like for instance magic. Magic in the Discworld exists because the probability of a world like the Discworld actually existing and how absurd it is so remote that essentially it can only exist because the walls of reality are thinner. Therefore, the Discworld can exist and magic can exist within it to essentially sort of shore up the world and make it exist and make it actually a solid item. And this comes into play in the Witches novels, unsurprisingly. So it starts off in the Ramtop Mountains, which is basically Terry Pratchett taking large stereotype images of the country Wales and being sarcastic and just basically having fun with them. He takes stereotypes, twists them and turns them, and enjoys himself immensely. Frankly, it is really fun to read about. And the Ramtops, aka a Wales version, has a number of interesting features, obviously other than terrain. That is, there's lots of small villages dotted around, and there are a selection of witches. Every major village has its own witch, and witches are a major and important point of village life. If you have an ailment, you go to the local village witch, and hopefully you will get it sorted. So, at this point when the novel starts, however, an interesting event is occurring, and that is, it is circle time. Basically, crop circles start appearing randomly in the Ramtops and indeed in other places in the world. This is not normally a major problem, apart from when, at the start of the novel, this time, because let's just say certain older practices have not been maintained. Standards have lapsed a bit due to witches are becoming rarer and rarer over time as the world is becoming more modern, or at least that's what most people think. And let's just say basically the crop circles are essentially a gateway or a door between realities, and the walls of reality, as I said, on the Discworld are already thin anyway due to the fact that the Discworld exists. Therefore, the crop circles are quite literally doorways between dimensions, and sometimes doorways lead to undesirable areas, let's say. One of them is, and this is not a spoiler in the slightest, because it's virtually in the title almost, that is the world of the Elves. Elves do exist. They don't exist directly within the Discworld. They're in another dimension that's like a very thin layer away as such, and under certain conditions they can actually come through into our world, which obviously in this novel they do. And let's just say chaos starts to ensue when the elves start to come through and start making their presence known. The witches are trying to stop the elves coming through because elves are not always what they seem. They appear to be these beautiful, aloof, intelligent species that are very caring and considerate, but that's just on the surface. There's more to them than what they appear, and this leads to some problems because the witches, of course, are very much about you are what you are. There is no deception with the witches. No witch is very much about deception in a obvious mean way, that is, and this presents problems for them and the whole kingdom. and at the same time as this as well, which is really not going to help and plays an important factor, although a small one but certainly important, is the fact there is a set of young wannabe witches in the area, which the main witches have to deal with in some way, let's say, as well as a very interesting group of Morris men who obviously do Morris dancing, and this is Discworld though. So Morris dancing and Morris men, yeah, Terry Pratchett has fun with them, let's say, because he's been sarcastic about the whole idea of Morris dancing with the handkerchiefs and the sticks and such. In this, yes, they do have handkerchiefs and they do have sticks, but not in the way you think, which comes into play in an interesting and very amusing way. One particular little sequence when the Morris men have to dance very realistically indeed. They have to do the Morris dance of their lives, even enough literally. And now I don't want to say too much more about the plot because I will give away plot points, but it's just really fun, interesting, it's quite convoluted, and one point to note is blatantly Terry Pratchett was inspired by a certain William Shakespeare, another rather well known English author, although I've obviously read a lot rather more Terry Pratchett than Shakespeare, and specifically it is inspired by A Midsummer Night's Dream, which is almost directly referenced in this. They mention about midsummer nights and dreaming and other aspects from A Midsummer Night's Dream, which I have read, although I didn't actually enjoy that particular play. And overall, the mix of little bits of obviously Shakespeare with obviously Terry Pratchett's amazing style, and he just twists ideas of Shakespeare's and includes little elements of them into the plot is frankly amazing. And one of the elements that is also amazing in this novel is, as is always the case with Terry Pratchett, the characters. The three main witches, which is Granny Weatherwax, Nanny Ogg and Margaret Garlick. For reference, her actual name was actually meant to be Margaret, but the midwife couldn't spell, so she ended up being called Margaret. She's never been very happy about that, but it is what it is, and she's learnt to live with it, and indeed she's learnt to use her name to effect. She's grown into her own name, even though she's still not a big fan of it. Just one of them things. The three witches, as they did in the previous witches novels, bounce off each other well. They both complement and contrast each other. They both irritate each other to death, but also comfort each other. This contrast between these sort of two extremes and things in the middle is brilliant, and they just work together so well. They dominate the novel. However, there are other major characters that comes into play. Obviously, the elves do come into play because they do have characters more lightly drawn individually, but as a whole the elves are very, very important. And another character that is actually quite interesting and important because he will make another appearance is Casanova, which is essentially, as you can guess by the name, Casanova, Cassandra. It is because Casanova is obviously meant to be the world's greatest lover. Cassandra, and think about the name Unda, lower, is a dwarf who is the Discworld's second greatest lover, although, as he has on his business card, he tries harder. Now this is obviously sarcastic reference to many things related to Casanova and related issues like that. Cassandra is a brilliant character. He returns in other books, at least one, and I'm not going to say too much about him, but he's a brilliant character that actually works with the witches surprisingly well. You might think, how would a character like that work with the witches when the witches are so much about independence and being strong-minded and frankly not needing male characters? But actually, his mindset and his psychology works and complements and also contrasts with them in such a way that it works perfectly, and it's a remarkable introduction actually. If I was trying to think of the plot of this novel, trying to think what characters it might work well, I wouldn't have thought of Cassandra because he's a strange character choice on the outside, but actually a perfect choice ultimately, which I do greatly appreciate. And the other thing that I appreciate in this novel is the setting. The Ramtops, as far as a location goes, is a brilliant area. As I've said, it is essentially Terry Pratchett being very tongue-in-cheek and mildly sarcastic, but not in a harsh way, about everything related to the country of Wales, also elements of Scotland and other sort of hilly, mountainous countries as well that are known for their, impressive scenery and hills and dales and rivers and such. This is Terry Pratchett having fun with it. He exaggerates features, makes the hills and dales higher or lower, and the rivers are more winding and more treacherous, and they're all old castles dotted around on hillsides and such with crumbling walls, which are obviously dangerous and also seem to be in incredibly popular use. And just this creation of the terrain, and in this novel you actually see a little bit more of the countryside around the Ramtops for a change. Some of the previous Witches books you've seen more the sort of urban areas or the sort of towns and the villages. This time they are in the countryside just around it, because of course the crop circles that comes into play, and it's a really interesting and nice view that I greatly appreciate, because you see more of the Ramtops, and the Ramtops are a major and very important location within this world, which I personally think is so well thought out, and it's such an inspired idea by Terry Pratchett, the Ramtops, that is something that I will always love, and one of my favourite locations within this world. Now I will talk a little bit about the ideas and themes in the book, and the most obvious of these, other than the fact that this is a overall just fun and interesting adventure within a very particular interesting location, is the fact that this is about characters who know their own mind and want to be very much independent and not be deceived by appearances. And the appearances come into play very much in this, because the elves have a certain mindset where it's all about the glamour of them and about what you perceive is, as far as they are concerned, what you get. And the witches in particular are not fans of this psychology, this view. They are very much about be your own person, know your own mind, and live life the way that your mind and your decisions take you. Don't be forced into anything just because other people tell you to or think that you should be. Be independent and have your independence resonate and come through in every aspect of your life. Just live your life exactly as freely or as controlled as you want. If you want to be have a life where it's controlled, the witches aren't against that, but you should have a choice. So if you want to have somebody telling you what to do, if you like being told what to do, some people do, frankly, then that's fine, but it should be your choice ultimately. If you want to then have more freedom and do your own thing, then that is your choice, and you should and must be allowed to do that. And the witches talking about this and portraying it in every moment of their lives is a really interesting way of discussing it. The witches are brilliant characters, so these issues come across really well and are discussed in frankly fantastic manner, as Terry Pratchett always does. Anything that he talks about with his novels always talked about with humour and fun in them, but he also always makes a significant point of this time about these issues about freedom and such and independence, and it's a method of writing that obviously you can tell. I mean, I keep reviewing these books. I love this concept that Terry Pratchett does, where he injects humour into issues that might actually be harder to manage or consume in another author's book. With Terry Pratchett, it's effortless. He makes it fun, light-hearted, and you're actually getting a greater meaning, far more than you probably realise even when you're reading it. I mean, these thoughts that I'm saying now, I had to have a good thing afterwards, and the fact that I've read this book multiple times in my life, to understand and to really dwell on and think. And whilst this is maybe not one of my favourite Discworld books, although I don't really have a exact favourite, it's certainly a strong Discworld novel, and frankly I think on the whole most Discworld novels are pretty much equal. The few that are a little bit weaker maybe, and a few that are slightly stronger, but there's not much in it. And overall, I'd say in summary that this is a strong and fun Discworld novel with humour and a brilliant plot, characters and a phenomenal setting in place. If that sounds like something you would enjoy, and frankly I don't think there's been many people that wouldn't at least think this is at least fairly reasonable, then I would heavily recommend this, because this is a fantastic novel which I would highly recommend. And with that said, that is it for this review. So I will leave a link to the Goodreads review of this down in the description box below, as I always do, as well as all my social media links as well. And with that said, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.